Welcome to today's 5-minute Bible study in the book of Deuteronomy. We're still looking at Deuteronomy chapter 16. Remember from yesterday's session, we saw that this chapter contains the instructions for the religious calendar of the Israelite nation. Primarily, there are three main festivals, what were called the pilgrim festivals. These were the festivals at which they were to travel to a place where the tabernacle, or later the temple, was established. Now the first of these, of course, is the Passover. Let's read the first several verses of chapter 16. Observe the month of Aviv and celebrate the Passover of the Lord your God, because in this month he brought you out of Egypt by night. Sacrifice as a Passover to the Lord your God an animal from your flock or herd at the place the Lord will choose as a dwelling for his name. Do not eat it with bread made with yeast, but for 7 days eat unleavened bread, the bread of affliction, because you left Egypt in haste, so that all the days of your life you may remember the time of your departure from Egypt. Let no yeast be found in your possession in all of your land for 7 days. Do not let any of the meat you sacrifice on the evening of the first day remain until morning. So here we have the instructions for the annual observance of the Passover. Now we know the Passover quite well. It was the central festival to the life of Israel. It commemorated God's great redemption, how he brought them out of slavery in the land of Egypt and brought them out as a free people. The original Passover, of course, was the night in which the 10th and final plague came upon the Egyptians, breaking the back of the Egyptian empire. Remember, the angel of death passed through the land, and the firstborn males in each Egyptian household died. But the Israelites were spared. The angel of death passed over them because the blood of the Passover lamb was covering them. So each year they are to remember the event, to remember the redemptive act of God. They are to sacrifice the Passover lamb and eat it as a family. Also, of course, they are to eat unleavened bread, bread without yeast, the bread of haste, also called the bread of affliction. The unleavened bread part of the festival will last for 7 days. For 7 days they are to eat bread made without yeast. These are the essential parts of the Passover meal. Israel observed it every year to remember they were God's redeemed people. Now the yeast later came to represent the presence of sin. So when you have bread without yeast, that is a reminder that sin, rebellion against God, is not to be a part of your life. Now, of course, we who are Christians recall that it was Jesus, as he celebrated the Passover with his disciples the night before his crucifixion, that he took the Passover meal and gave to it new meaning for those who followed him. And the bread of Passover became his body given for us. And the wine of Passover became his blood shed for us. Jesus was saying that he is our Passover lamb, that he redeems us from bondage to sin and redeems us. And when we celebrate Holy Communion in Christian churches today, when we celebrate the Lord's Supper, we are remembering our Passover when Jesus redeemed us from slavery and made us his redeemed people. Now, Deuteronomy 16 contains the instructions for Passover, but it's found in other places as well. The institution of Passover, as I mentioned yesterday, is also found in Exodus 12. The instructions for Passover are also found in Leviticus chapter 23, as well as Numbers chapter 28. The fact that we have it repeated so often shows how important it was to the life of the children of Israel. The Passover was at the center of who they were as the people of God. They remembered God had redeemed them from slavery and made them his people. Likewise, when we celebrate communion, we remember the center of our faith is that Jesus died for us, our Passover lamb, and he rose again, opening the way to eternal life for us. We are the redeemed people of God. Jesus is our Passover lamb. Join us tomorrow as we continue our 5-minute Bible study in the book of Deuteronomy. Tomorrow we'll be looking at the second festival the Pilgrim Festival, that is the Festival of Weeks, also called Pentecost. But we'll look at that tomorrow.